Chats on Reddit say I take it too far, but today's story's of my husband and how he'll take your car.
r/entitled parents. Our first story we'll be reading today. I wanted to sell my old car, but entitled son wants my new car, so entitled dad and entitled son steal it. From user Wolfguard087. After that, entitled mom wants to skip the line, gets a lot more than she wanted. From user Lord Wolf Deluxe. And after that, entitled mom tries to make youngest daughter take care of older daughter's horse at horse show. Gets yelled at by a former professional rider. From user The Night Fury Princess. And then we'll be finishing up with
Let my kids play with your bike.
From user Pudgy Panda C. Thank you so much to our authors for letting us read your stories. And if you're an author who would like me to read your stories next, please submit them to the r/Mr. Reddit subreddit. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. I wanted to sell my old car, but entitled son wants my new car, so entitled dad and entitled son steal it. I deleted my second post because after reading through it again and talking to my mom about it, I misunderstood some information. But third time's a charm, and I'm still fuming about it. Backstory. I have to go back a bit for that. In April 2018, it was the last day we had freezing temperatures and heavy snow. On that day, on my way home from work, I had an accident with my 2006 Ford Focus. I crashed into a driver in front of me because I underestimated the frozen road. Don't worry, neither me nor the driver I crashed into were harmed in any way. His car had a scratch in the front bumper, while my car's front bumper broke at the side. Police were called, we exchanged information, and that was the end of it. So I had to bring my car to the mechanic again, and I had enough of it. I owned the car for almost 2 years and had to make several repairs already. So I thought whatever and tried to get a new car. I brought my Focus to a friend of mine who made a little extra by repairing cars. A coworker of mine gave me a ride to work until I had a new car. I paid my share for the gas. Now to the present. Around a month ago, I found a new car, finally. A car dealer had a deal where they would sell cars with daily admission for €10,000 less than the original price. After a short time thinking and some dealing with my bank account manager, I'm now the owner of a 2018 Ford Focus ST Line Sport Edition, completely black except for the roof and the top half of the side mirrors, which were red. The car is great, and when I bought it, it only had around 15 miles. Sorry for the long backstory. On to the actual encounter. After I bought the new car, I put my old Focus up for sale on an app called Auto Scout 24, where everyone can sell their cars for how much they want for it. Of course, depending on age, miles, etc. Most of the damages were fixed. Me and my significant other cleaned it inside and out, but I knew I wouldn't get much for it. So I put the base price at €350 with the option to bargain. In my first post, I told you that I live in the old town of my home city. So in order to not occupy parking spaces and to avoid parking tickets, I parked my car at my grandma's place in her driveway. Her house is on the countryside, so it won't bother anyone, and I could take good pictures for the ad. 2 days ago, while I was at work, I got a call from an unknown number. The guy left a message that he wanted to take a look at the car. I called him back, told him where the car was, and that we could meet there after my shift was finished. He agreed. After I'm done with my shift, I drove immediately to my grandma's place to wait for him. Cast. We've got entitled dad, entitled son, around 17 to 18, and me, master of disaster, and grandma. Me and entitled dad agreed on meeting at 15:30. I was there early, parked next to my old Focus, went inside to tell my grandma I was selling the car today and checked if everything was still all right. Entitled dad and entitled son arrived half an hour later than agreed, explaining the place was hard to find. I shrug it off because I could tell they weren't from around here. So, me and entitled dad take a look around the car. I explain everything to him, fix damages, etc. He asks me about how many miles, etc., the usual stuff. When I talk with entitled dad, I notice that entitled son wasn't paying any attention. The car was supposed to be for entitled son, according to entitled dad. Entitled son rather likes to take a look at my new Focus instead.
Dang, that's a nice ride.
Thanks.
Can I take a ride?
Now, I'm very picky if it's about my new car, but who wouldn't be? And by the way, I had a feeling he didn't have his driver's license for very long. Sorry, not happening. I just got the car a few weeks ago.
Come on, let the boy have a little fun.
Sorry, still not happening. And by the way, we were talking about my 2006 Focus, not my new one.
But I like this car. You heard him. He likes the new one. So how about you sell us this one instead?
Yeah, right. And how much would you pay me anyway?
Well, the ad said 350 euros.
Yes, for the 2006 Ford Focus.
Fine, I'll give you 3,000 for the new one.
Are you serious? I paid 30,000 for that car. 30,000 was the original price, but with the deal, I got it for 20,000.
Well, you drove the car for a while, and that's a price drop.
Sorry, this is leading nowhere. We are done. I turned to my car, pulled the key out of my pockets, and just wanted to go home.
Dad, I said I want the car.
Entitled dad grabs me by the arm.
You heard him. Hand over the keys.
Now, I'm a little heavy build, but I'm still strong enough to fight if I have to. I said no, and I would recommend you let me go, now. While my eyes were staring at entitled dad, entitled son snatched the keys from my hand, unlocked the car, and jumped in. I immediately freed myself from entitled dad and ran to the driver's side of my car. That little jerk locked the door so I couldn't get inside. So I did the only thing I could and stood behind my car to prevent him from leaving. He could only back out of the driveway. Tell your kid to get out of the car before I call the police. In the commotion, my grandma came outside. What's going on? Grandma, go inside and call the police. They're trying to steal my... I couldn't finish because entitled dad shoved me aside so entitled son could drive away. Well, he surprised me. I hit the ground hard and they drove off in my car, while leaving their car behind. I immediately grabbed my phone and called the police. As I mentioned in the backstory, my new Focus was completely black except for the roof and the top of the side mirrors, which were red, which means that car stood out among the most which are around in our home city. It took the police 10 minutes to arrive. One of the officers took my and my grandma's statement, while the other one radioed his colleagues from the neighboring towns the description and license plate of my car. About an hour later, entitled dad and entitled son came back to the house with my car. The two policemen pulled them out of the car and cuffed them. Entitled dad tried to talk him and his son out of the situation by telling the police they only did a test drive. The police had none of their BS and escorted them away. They asked me if I wanted to press charges, and I agreed. More importantly, I checked my car for damages. It had around 20 miles more than before, and I found ash and cigarette burns in my back seat. I still have to wait for a court date, and if possible, I'll keep you updated. P.S. Their car was later picked up by the wife of entitled dad, who told me she is sorry for their behavior. Little update. I have an appointment with my lawyer this Thursday. I'll keep you updated. Next we've got entitled mom wants to skip the line, but gets a lot more than she wanted. Edit. Conversion for temperature. 35 degrees Celsius is 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Long time lurker, first time post. A few need to know details. It was very hot. It was about 35 degrees Celsius, but it felt like 44. Important detail for later. So I was standing in line at the checkout at my local supermarket. I think in total I had about 10 items, some frozen goods, drinks, and snacks. I usually tend to take out one of the buds of my phone, so in case someone addresses me, I would hear it. At this time, the woman at the cash register was taking care of the payment of one client, and there was one person in front of me. And then suddenly, she appeared. The entitled mom in this story. Now honestly, she didn't look it. She didn't even give off a mean vibe or anything. Even the way she started talking to me was overall nice and polite. At first. "Excuse me, do you mind if I skip ahead? I'm in a hurry." Now, in general, if somebody politely asks me this, and I don't have any urgent business of my own, I usually don't mind. This time, however, I didn't have that many groceries, so her delay would be at most a few minutes, while she was pushing a fully loaded shopping cart in front of her. So if I would have let her skip, I'd probably still be in the store for another 10 to 20 minutes. So I politely decline and tell her I will hurry as much as I can. Of course, this was a great offense. I had not given this woman her entitlement. She blew up instantly, yelling and screaming at me that she was in a hurry and, not getting here, had to be home in time for her shows. Now at this time, I would like to point out that during this rant, she only said she had to be home in time for shows and that were very important to her. There was nothing else making this urgent for her. This is important a bit later. Now, while this woman was going off, the person at the cash register went into ignore mode and just started scanning my groceries, which I loaded into bags while the entitled mom was going on about how I was garbage and they should have me banned from the store. Now, this should have been the end of it. Just turn around and go home and forget this happened. But then she said something that, 1, made me almost want to off her, and 2, made this a postable story. While I was walking away, just about to put the earplug back in, she yells, "If you pass by my car, tell my son you're the reason he has to wait another half an hour for me." Now, I'm not an extremely smart person, but in this moment, my brain made some connections quickly. What I realized was that 1, again, it was very hot outside. 2, this woman had been in the store for a while, judging by the amount of groceries. And 3, the entire parking lot of this store had almost no shade. 4, it was about 2 p.m., so the sun was just over its peak. I rush outside and start running past cars, scanning them for kids inside. Thankfully, one of the first cars I pass has a small kid laying in the back seat. This kid is as pale as a ghost, sweating like crazy, and it looked like he was only half conscious. I run back inside, and to my utter astonishment, this jerk is having a conversation with the cashier while she's checking her out for groceries. I grab her by the shoulders, spin her around, and yell almost straight to her face that her kid is literally burning up in the car, and if you don't do something right now, I'm smashing in your windows and calling the cops. At first, she looked at me in complete confusion, probably never been spoken to like that before in her life. Then the realization of what I told her sunk in, and she rushed outside. While she went outside, a man tapped me on the shoulder and asked what had happened. I explained the situation, actually leaving out the bit at the cash register, just saying I saw the kid in the car and knew that this woman was probably the owner. He went outside, and when I came outside, the entitled mom suddenly rushed me and got in my face, saying I was the reason she was in there for so long, and her son's current condition was my fault. Before I can even respond, the man that approached me earlier speaks up. Turns out, this man was an off-duty cop and had been in the store for a while, and as such knew the actual delay caused by me could not have caused this. He also said that he had already called an ambulance for the kid and the cops for her. I don't know what happened to the entitled mom, but she completely crashed. She just sat down on the pavement and started shaking her head, not saying much except the occasional sob or, "Not my fault." As for the ending, everything turned out okay for most parties. I stayed a while to give a statement to the cops and my contact info in case it went to court. The kid was okay afterwards, and since his mom got arrested, They called his dad, or another male family member, I didn't ask, to accompany him to the hospital. As for the entitled mom, I'm assuming she's going to have to stand trial. Not sure if she'll get just a fine or jail time. Next we've got entitled mom tries to make youngest daughter take care of older daughter's horse at a horse show. Gets yelled at by a former professional rider. Alright, so this is probably the most memorable entitled parent experience I've had, save from tales I can tell about my mom, which aren't exactly very many that stand out and are rather just kinda something she does in general. Anyway, I grew up riding and showing horses, which meant I went to a lot of horse shows, which also means a lot of entitlement, but there wasn't anything that really stuck out like this one. Typically, it was just parents arguing with a judge, trying to convince them to change their decision and make the winner give up their ribbon to their kid, so I didn't pay attention since it didn't involve me. This story, however, is completely different and kind of personal. It's also really infuriating, which is probably why I remember it so well. I'm on mobile, so forgive any spelling and grammar mistakes. Also, I was 8 when this happened, so I don't remember the exact dialogue. Cast. We've got me. Girl with no patience for stupidity or entitlement. We've got entitled mom. Karen, who does not understand how professional riding works, nor the bond between horse and rider needed. We've got entitled daughter, who wants to be a professional horse rider and thinks others should do things for her. And we have sweet girl, who deserves to be treated better than she was. And mom, my mom, who is a former professional rider. So, for context, I always sang the national anthem at the beginning of the shows and also helped at the tack shop in between classes, so I tended to talk to the people showing a lot, as they tended to find out they forgot something or it broke. As I was a kid at the time of this story, I just handed them their items and wiped down the table. I met a girl my age one day when she needed to get something or other for her sister. Things were slow, so I got to hang out with her, which I probably could have done regardless since I was a little kid. We went over to where her trailer was, and as we both had Nintendo DS's, we started playing against each other. Cue entitled mom and entitled daughter. Entitled mom yelling and red-faced.
Sweet girl, what are you doing? Your sister's in the next class, and her horse isn't brushed or tacked up, nor does it have food or water.
For those who don't know, the saddle, bridle, and saddle blanket are called tack, and when someone says a horse is or isn't tacked up, it means that the horse either does or doesn't have the bridle, saddle, and saddle pad on. But it's entitled daughter's horse.
That doesn't matter. You're supposed to take care of it. She's going to be a professional. She shouldn't have to get her hands dirty.
Now, I may have been 8, but even I brushed my own horse and fed her. My mom tacked up the horse because I couldn't reach and didn't have much upper arm strength, which made picking up my heavy western saddle hard to do. Sweet girl wouldn't have had trouble picking up her sister's saddle since it's a light English one. There's 2 types of riding styles. My mom also got water for the horse because of the lack of my upper arm strength, but otherwise I did everything myself. It's what's expected of riders, as the horse and rider are a team, and without having a strong, special bond with one another, they don't work well, and it makes showing and riding more difficult. As entitled mom was yelling at sweet girl, entitled daughter snatched the DS and also tried to take mine, which, as I was already incredibly mad that my friend was being forced to take care of her sister's horse, but that was the final straw, as I had just gotten the DS for Christmas.
Sweet girl shouldn't have to take care of entitled daughter's horse. It's entitled daughter's. She should take care of it. Leave sweet girl alone, and don't touch my DS.
That did not fare well with entitled mom. She grabbed me by my hair and dragged me to my mom's trailer.
Your brat here just started yelling at me because I told sweet girl to take care of entitled daughter's horse. Entitled daughter shouldn't have to take care of her horse. She's going to be a professional one day, and they don't do that. They have others do it for them. You should teach her to mind her own business and not lecture adults on their parenting.
My mom turned red. And fun fact, my mom used to be a professional rider. She even almost made it to the Olympics, but found out she was pregnant with me and quit, which also gave a friend of hers her spot in the Olympics. My mom knew what it was like to be a professional rider and what they did, which was take care of and tack up their own horses. She also used to help teach and train riders and had always emphasized the bond between horse and rider. Well, sweet girl shouldn't be tacking up entitled daughter's horse, especially if she wants to be a professional. You need a strong bond between horse and rider if you want to make it there, and you also need to take care of your own horse. I know, I used to be a professional. Entitled mom left, and mom took me back home because she was extremely mad. I wish I could say that after being told by a professional to take care of her own horse, she did, but unfortunately, sweet girl was still forced to take care of her sister's horse for as long as I continued showing. I don't know what happened to her after I stopped, but I hope she's doing better. I also feel really bad for entitled daughter because she'll never know the joy that comes from spending time with your horse. Oh well, her loss in more ways than one. And our final story of the day.
Let my kids play with your bike.
Hi, Mr. Reddit. First time posting, long time viewer. I love your videos and hope to see some of my stories on your channel. I wasn't sure where to put this story. I was going to post it in entitled parents, but it didn't work, not sure why. Obligatory mobile and grammar warnings. English is my first language, but as you'll see, I'm bad at it. I won't be putting in any dialogue because this is my husband's story and I wasn't there. Our cast. We've got my husband, and we've got the good-for-nothing cop, and entitled mom. Husband rides his bike to work because we currently do not have a car. On this particular day, he had just locked it up and was about to head inside to clock in when 3 kids started messing with his bike. He noticed who he assumed was their mother, who was paying very little attention to them, and asked her to tell her kids to stop. Entitled mom told him that he can't tell her kids what to do and that they could do whatever they want. While this was happening, another parent passed by with his son, who was younger than entitled mom's kids, and he wanted to touch the bike too, but his father told him not to. Kudos to that dad for actually teaching his child not to touch other people's property without permission. Now, husband is a bit of a hothead and really doesn't like when people touch his things. He told entitled mom that he wasn't, but she should teach her kids to be more careful because other people could have weapons, might hurt them for touching their things. Entitled mom took that as a threat and said she'd call the police, but finally got her kids away from husband's bike. Husband told her to go right ahead, thinking she wouldn't actually do it, and if she did, that the police would be on his side. Unfortunately, he was wrong. Entitled mom did call the police and was able to tell her side first, probably telling the good-for-nothing cop that husband had threatened to hurt them. When husband told his side of the story, good-for-nothing cop asked him if he knew that entitled mom's kids were autistic. Don't beat me up for this. I have many family members on the autism spectrum, but neither of us think that's the truth and that it's just something entitled mom used to keep the cop on her side. Husband said entitled mom didn't tell him that, but it shouldn't matter, and he had every right to protect his property. Good-for-nothing cop asked him if the kids had damaged the bike in any way. Husband said no. Cop asks if they were trying to steal it. When again husband said no, cop told him that when kids see a bike, they see it as a toy, and he had no right to say anything at all. Husband told the cop that not only was it his only way to work, but he had had issues with people messing with the gears and tires before, and because of it, has almost crashed because something he didn't notice until it was almost too late. Thankfully, he hasn't been in any very serious accidents. Cop said that this didn't matter, and husband should keep his threats to himself. Thankfully, husband didn't get arrested, but I guess it was a win for the entitled mom anyway. Also, husband wasn't threatening them, and is trying to be more careful with what he says to people. Unfortunately, some people will just have to learn the hard way. And congrats to our re-generals of the day, TJK Films, Benjamin, Cody, E. Kramer, Dex978, and Xavier. You know what to do. Become our next Read Generals by dropping as many reads as you can in the comments below. That's all for now, but don't be blue. I'll be back soon with more stories for you. Remember to listen to Mr. Reddit every night so your dreams will be wonderful like you are and bright.